Right, okay, part three. Carry on with this level theme. What we want to be able to do is have more than one level. Now we've got some things set up ready for this. So we've got this draw level code, so we can put in more levels to be built. And we need to not necessarily create more tiles, but we need to create more maps. Okay, so I'm going to cheat and I'm going to create another map. So by copying one we've already got. So I'm going to copy that map and say Control C, and then just above draw level I'm going to paste a new map. Now obviously if I leave it like this and I try and build it, it's going to go mad and say, oh, you've already got level 1. Yeah, I have. So I'm going to change this bottom one to level 2. Okay, and I'm going to add some tiles in the middle. So let's have a look again at what tiles we had. We had bouncy walls, so let's put some bouncy walls. That was number 1. Okay, so I'm just going to pick some random blocks and put ones in there. Obviously the art of creating a level is to make something that's going to be nice and interesting, but we ain't bothered about that at the minute. We're just learning. Okay, so that's level 2. So I'm going to create, and that's it. I've created a new level just by copying an old level, which is a quick way of putting one together. Now I'm going to test this in a second, but I need to copy my case from draw level. Obviously I can't put case 1, I need to put case 2, and everything's identical. The size of it's the same. The only thing that's different is I'm going to copy level 2, and that becomes the active level. Okay, now to test this, for now I'm going to go back to my playgame.cs, and where it says start title level data.draw level 1, I'm going to change that to 2. And this is the beauty of parameters. Now I'm going to run it. So F5, or click on the little run button at the top like I did then, and we should get, hopefully, there you go, they're brilliantly placed bouncy blocks. Okay, so you could put your name in there if you wanted to be all super artistic or whatever, but really you should be placing things on purpose for an effect. Okay, right, what we're also now going to do is we're going to set this up so that we can toggle through the different maps we've got. Okay, now in order to do this I'm going to take this temporary code out of here. Alright, I want to put some different code that sets up the level for me. Okay, so I'm going to highlight the line where I say level data.draw level 2, and I'm going to right click on that and I'm going to say refactor, and I'm going to say extract method. Now what that effectively means is take the code that you've highlighted, create a subroutine and stick that code in there. Alright, so let's just click on extract method. It asked me for a name, so I'm going to call it show level, and there'll be other things that we do in here, so don't put the brackets because it does that for us. Just click OK and you'll see what it's done. It's running the subroutine for us and it's defined the subroutine. Okay, now what we want to do is not show a specific level, we want to have a value, okay, that keeps track of what level we're playing with. So in our play game at the top, just above where it says start title, we're going to create, we're going to create a level, okay, value. So we're going to say int level equals 1 to start with. Leave it as a default. Okay, so that's going to do that for us. Alright, so that's going to hold what level we're doing, and we can change show level to use that variable instead. Interesting. Okay, now it's moaning and saying Right, so if you just look at the full error on this, it says an object reference is required for a non-static field method or property. What we've got to put is the keyword static in front of this. Okay, and it'll be happy. Okay. And the reason we had to do that is because this subroutine that ran and used level was created for us automatically, was created static. Okay, so I won't go into the technicalities of why, but we need to make sure that that variable was static. Okay, right, so let's just run that just to make sure that that works. So it should hopefully display level 1. Now we want a mechanism, so when we press a key, that we toggle the amount of levels we've got. Now in order to do that, we need to keep track of how many levels we've got in total. So if we go back to level data first, and we'll put this information at the top, we'll create a public static int total levels, we'll call it. Okay, we'll call it total levels, and then that's going to just hold how many levels we've created. Alright, but we ought to make it a constant, so we'll make it a constant. Now we've got 2 levels, so we'll put total levels equals 2, and we'll be able to interrogate that value in a minute. Now we want to be able to press a key. Now code to do with key presses and things is going to be in input. Okay, so if we go to input, there's one subroutine in there called check input. Now at the minute it's not got much in there. It's got a check for escape being pressed, which quits the whole system. Okay, so we're going to add in an extra check to say, right, well they've pressed a button, let's change the level number. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say if, and we're putting it after, and we're going to ask the input manager, and we're going to say if a key's been pressed, and when we say pressed we mean it previously wasn't pressed, so if you hold it down it won't keep triggering, and we're going to use F2. You can change that if you want, okay, but for now we're going to use F2. At the minute we're just doing keyboard controls, but we'll come back and we'll add in controls for the Xbox pads. Okay, right, so we put in braces what we're going to do. So we got in brackets the test we want to do. So if this is true, F2's been pressed, we're going to alter what the level number is. So we're going to say level equals level plus 1. Now we can write it out in full like that. What we need to do, if we're on level 1, we want to go to level 2. But if we've only got 2 levels, when we press F2 again, we want to wrap back round to level 1. So we need to do a test. So we need to say if level is greater than our level data dot, and you should see total levels. If it is greater than that, then we need to reset the level back to 1, and that will make it cycle round. But what we also must do is make sure everything gets shown. So we're going to say start title. Okay, so we're going to say let's run the subroutine start title when I press F2 after I've changed the level. Okay, so if we go to the definition of start title again, that's the thing that displays the graphic, displays the level, changes the background colour. Okay, there's a slight problem with this, but let's just run this and see what happens. Chug, chug, chug. Okay, so every time I press F2 it changes the level data, but actually what it's doing is it's adding more and more tile maps. So it's actually displaying loads of tile maps. It's now hung, okay, as I've pressed F2 too many times. Alright, so what we must do when we start the title screen, we must make sure that what we do is get rid of stuff. Alright, so in title graphic, before we create the title graphic, we must say to the engine, say engine manager dot clear all the sprites. Okay, and that gets rid of any sprites that are on screen. When we draw a level, before we draw the level, we need to say to the tilemap manager, so we say tilemap manager dot remove, I think it's remove, oh no, I can do clear, tilemap manager dot clear, losing my marbles. Okay, and that'll get rid of any previous tile maps before we draw the one we want. Okay, there are a number of things like this that we need to do when we're messing about with things that are managed for us. So if we run it now, we should just be able to keep pressing F2 and we should be happy, and it won't just lock up on us. It didn't actually lock up. What it did is it couldn't add another tile map. So I can sit and press F2 all day if I want now, and it'll keep flicking between the two maps. Okay. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to display what this map is called on the screen. Where we're going to display that, I don't know. At the bottom of the screen, I think, will be a good place to do that. Now, that sort of code we'll put in general logic. Okay. So in general logic, we've got the game loop, and we've got a switch inside there saying what state is the game in, and we've got load up and loading assets, but we haven't got one for when the game's in title mode. Okay, so let's have a look at play game. When we say start title, it says game state equals state.title. So in general logic, if we put a case in here and say case state.title and do our break on the next line down, we can tell it to run a subroutine. Okay, so I'm going to say title logic as the name for a subroutine that doesn't exist. Okay, so I'm going to say if we're in title mode, when you're doing the game loop, run this subroutine. So I'm going to generate that subroutine because it doesn't exist. So I've right clicked on title logic and said generate method stub. And again, it's created that for me. Okay. Okay, so we don't want this throw not implemented exception, so we get rid of that line. And what we can do is all we can do is use the text system to draw on screen at the bottom what the name of the level is. And remember, we specify the name of the level in our draw level code and did it there, simple. Now you can see, because I copied and pasted, I left the simple bit. So I'm going to call this second level I created super level. Okay, obviously put a sensible name in there, and you'll probably want to, like, after this video, step back and create something a little less naff for a level. Anyway, back to general logic. So we're going to draw some text on screen. Okay, and this is what I call dynamic text. It can change, so we're constantly drawing it all the time. Okay, and we do that using the text manager. So the text manager, we say draw, and it'll ask us what we want to draw and how we want to draw it. There's a few different ways of drawing text, and we're gonna use this one. So we're gonna specify what font to use, and there are various fonts, okay, that we can use. The one I'm going to use is like an army one, which is year 1943. So that's the font I'm going to use. What I want to do is then say what text, and that text comes from assets.activeLevel, and we say toString, and that picks up the name that we gave for the level. Okay, now this line is going to get quite long, so I'm going to carry on in the next line down after I've done my comma. Now the next thing I've got to say is where on screen do I want to sit it. Now I want this to be in the center of the screen, so I'm going to say screen size dot center dot X. Okay, and I want it to be at the bottom of the screen. Now the bottom of the screen is screen size dot center dot bottom. That gives me the bottom position of the screen. Okay. By default, text is top left aligned, which means those two positions won't work. So what I need to do is do something that looks a little bit complicated, but it allows me to customize my text. Now I can say what size, and we'll do various tests of this in a second. Kerning of 1, but I'm going to leave those two at 1. So I've got scale of 1, kerning of 1. The colour, it's going to go on that black blocks. So I'm going to say colour dot. Let's pick a weird colour. They will see it. White smoke. I don't know what colour that looks like. I'm assuming it's some sort of grey. And I'm then going to specify an alignment, and I'm going to say bottom. Okay, so that's center bottom. So the text should appear at the bottom of the screen in the center, based on those two X and Y values I gave. So that defines what I call a text attribute. So we close that bracket off there. You can see it's gone grey, and close off the draw subroutine. Run. Okay. So let's just recap that. We've got text manager draw, font we want, the text we want to display, its X position, its Y position, and how does it look. And there's a load more complicated things than this, but this is just simple for now. So we're saying scale 1, kerning 1, which is just the gap between each letter. You can mess about with that to stretch things out. The colour we want to display it at, and its alignment mode. Okay, and we run that, and we only run it if the game state is in title mode. So let's just do F5 to run this and see what happens. So it should display at the bottom of the screen the name we gave to the level, and you can come up with whatever names you want. So if I just move that up a bit in that window, and you can see that one's called simple. If I press F2, shows me super level, simple, super level. Okay, so that's just a nice little layout system. Whether that's the best place to put it, it's entirely up to you. Okay, and you can see the font there. So let's just mess about with some of those attributes, and that'll be the end of this video. So let's go. So we're still in general logic here. Let's change the kerning to 10. So we can say put 10 pixels between each character, and you'll see the effect of that straight away. So I'm running it again with that slight change, and you'll see this time the letters are really far apart. So you can get some quite nice effects. Let's make the font bigger. Let's triple it in size. So I say scale 3 and run it, and you'll see the effect of that. So you can make really large text if you want. So F5 in it to run, and there you go. Obviously super level doesn't fit on the screen anymore, but there you go. So it's a bit stupidly big. Press escape to quit. Right, so I'm going to put the font size back at that. If you put a negative kerning, you'll get this effect. So I'm going to put -5, run it with F5, and you see that what happens is the letters overlap, which can give you some nice effects. Okay, so let's move that up so you can see that. In this case it's a naff effect, but I just wanted to highlight that to you. Okay, so I'm going to put the kerning back at 1. Okay, and that's it for this video. So we've got now multiple tile maps and a nice little way of specifying what level we want, and a nice little key press that allows us to toggle through or cycle through the levels that we've got. Okay, and remember, in start title we made sure we cleared all the previous sprites before we displayed any new ones, and in the level bit we cleared the tile maps so that there were none, okay, before we drew the next one. In the next video, hopefully we'll have a go at creating a tank. Let's see.